Story Chapter 1: The Morning Ritual. The wind swept through Aberdeen, carrying with it the smell of salt, seaweed, and untold stories. Nestled along its sprawling beach, the Dimma family cottage stood weathered but stubborn, much like its most prominent inhabitant, Edwin Dimma. Every morning, the retired history professor, known for the wise yet twinkling eyes beneath his knitted cap, began his day with a ritual as unwavering as the tides. With a bright red raincoat, faded and frayed from years of wear, he set out towards the beach, his oak cane, a gift from a fellow academic, supporting his gait. By his side, Rigby, his companionable border collie, leapt forward, eager for their daily adventure. "Let's go, Rigby," Edwin said, his voice a mix of command and affection, warmed by years of companionship. The dog responded with an enthusiastic bark, circling him twice before dashing towards the beckoning waves. The sky overhead, a muted blend of grays and blues, promised rain but withheld it like a secret. Children nearby, their coats vivid spots against the dreary backdrop, flew kites, their laughter rising in sharp peals against the rhythmic shushing of the sea. Edwin waved at Mrs. Patterson, who watched them from her porch. Her nod, though curt, was affectionate, a silent acknowledgement of their shared history. As Edwin and Rigby continued along the edge of the tide, he often paused to pick up curious stones or shells, pondering their origins, weaving tales in his mind. The beach was his canvas, each object a brushstroke in a story known only to him. "Found anything interesting today, old boy?" he asked Rigby, who had stopped to sniff at a clump of seaweed, tail wagging furiously. Rigby barked in reply, as if urging him to hurry up, for the sea held infinite mysteries, and they only had so much time to uncover them. Chapter 2: A Community's Alarm. When the sun reached its zenith, hidden behind a thick curtain of cloud, the town began to stir with a different energy. Lucy Dimma stepped off her porch, concern knitting her brow. It wasn't like her father to delay his return, especially with a fresh pot of tea inviting him back home every noon. "Have you seen my dad today?" she asked Mr. Thompson, the local fisherman, who was repairing his nets by the dock. "Aye, same path as always. Did he not come back?" Mr. Thompson looked up, his face etched with immediate worry. As Lucy's concern grew, so did the unease among the townsfolk. Word spread quickly. Edwin Dimma, the stalwart of their morning routine, was missing. The community was small, each absence felt keenly, a missing piece in the puzzle of their daily lives. By evening, a search party had gathered. Lanterns flickered to life as daylight ebbed away, casting long shadows that danced eerily across the sand. Lucy, resilient and driven by love and fear, led them back along her father's path. Story. The beach, once inviting with its glistening tide and whispering waves, now seemed forbidding under the shroud of night. The kites were packed away, the children home, their laughter replaced by the murmurings of concerned whispers. "Edwin's tough," said Mrs. Patterson, clutching her shawl tight, more for comfort than warmth. "He's probably sitting somewhere, engrossed in some find, lost in another world." Lucy nodded, wishing she could believe it completely. Behind her brave facade, her heart beat with an urgent rhythm, whispering fears she dared not voice. Chapter 3: The Unfinished Stories. The townspeople dispersed with promises to continue at first light, but Lucy remained by the porch, where Rigby sat, vigil. The dog's eyes were pools of unspoken worry, and instinctive understanding passed between them. "He can't have gone far, can he, Rigby?" Lucy murmured, running a hand over the dog's head, seeking solace in the familiar texture of his fur. As night deepened, a storm brewed both outside and within. Memories tumbled through Lucy's mind. Childhood evenings spent by the fire, her father's voice weaving stories of ancient clans, cursed treasures, and lost souls wandering the shores. What if one of the stories was true? Lucy mused aloud, shivering, though not from the cold. Each tale, told with her father's unique flair, returned to her with a new vibrancy, each detail a breadcrumb that could lead her to him. "Tomorrow, Rigby," she whispered, her resolve hardening. "We'll begin where Dad left off. We'll find him." In the depths of the night, as the sea murmured and moonlight silvered the waves, Lucy devised her plan. Drawing upon her father's stories about the beach's legendary past, she would explore not just the endless stretch of sand, but would dive into the depths of the knowledge he had passed on to her. Chapter 4: Threads to the Past. Dawn came with a soft drizzle, casting a fine mist over Aberdeen. Lucy, wearing the sea captain's hat that had adorned her father's head during many adventure bedtime stories, set off with Rigby. Her heart pounded, her mind determinedly focused on uncovering any clues left behind. The beach, usually bustling by now, was quiet, save for the restless waves and Rigby's excited barking as they began their quest. Lucy considered the tales as she walked, the secrets buried in the sands, whispered among rocks and dunes by winds carrying words from ancient pasts. Story. Let's start at the old shipwreck, she said, patting Rigby's side. The shipwreck was the site of many of her father's cherished tales, a place where history was palpable, where stories of mariners and pirate legends intertwined. The walk there felt different from before. The beach, familiar and foreign in this new context, unfurled slowly like pages in a story yet to be written. As they approached the crumbling skeletal remains of the ship, Lucy crouched, examining the flotsam and jetsam strewn across the sand, searching for anything amiss. Her hand brushed over something smooth, a piece of driftwood, engraved with symbols she had seen in her father's study. A rush of recognition coursed through her. These were markings her father had shown her, linked with a story about a secretive maritime guild that once sailed these waters. He loved puzzles, and these symbols had formed many an evening's entertainment over a chessboard. Guided by instinct and the legacy of her father's curiosities, Lucy traced the edges of the engraved wood, feeling a pattern, a message only for those who could read it. Chapter 5. Echoes and Revelations. As hours turned, the solace of being on her father's path fueled Lucy's determination, and Rigby's enthusiastic company reminded her she was far from alone. They followed a trail of scattered, similar objects, stone, wood, shells, each marked with a continuation of the symbol, leading her eastward towards the rising sun and closer to a part of the shore where the rocks were carved by time into a labyrinthine cove. Her heart quickened. The stories were leading her. Here, where the earth and sea met, she could almost feel her father's presence, guiding her through the echoing past. Lucy stilled her mind and listened, not with her ears but with a perceptiveness taught by her father. The cove, with its towering rock formations, resonated with history. If stories lived, this was their home, a gateway between worlds. As she explored, Rigby sniffed eagerly at the base of a peculiar rock formation. Lucy followed, discovering a narrow fissure half by creeping vines. Behind the natural curtain, draped delicately like time veiling truth, she found a small alcove. It was sheltered from the elements, untouched by time or tide, containing remnants of an old campsite, a place where someone might stow away to think or to hide. An object lay nestled amidst the sand and rock, a compass. Lucy picked it up, her breath shallow. Not just any compass, it was her father's. An heirloom passed down generation after generation, kept not for navigation, but for memory. Edwin must have been here, Lucy whispered to Rigby, hope igniting her resolve. Chapter 6. Threads of Fear and Hope Story. The search party regrouped later that morning, each member drawn to the mystery, with the camaraderie of those who loved their town and its people. As Lucy shared her findings, the compass sparked a new wave of hope, a tangible connection to the man they sought. Mrs. Patterson, upon hearing about the compass, recounted an old tale as they gathered around. A story of a sandstorm so fierce it blurred the lines between worlds, leaving behind mystery and echoes of those caught within. "Your father loved that one," she said, her eyes misty. "He said the sands remember everything. We just have to know how to listen." Lucy's heart tightened. Could her father have found himself amidst the echo of such a story, swept from the present into the past he adored? The idea, while fanciful, felt strangely possible to her. As the search continued, incorporating Lucy's newfound path and clues, another thought took root. Perhaps Edwin wasn't truly lost but had stepped into one of the stories he cherished. And if he had, she too would find her way to him. Chapter 7. The Convergence. The townspeople, reinvigorated by Lucy's discoveries, combed the beach with renewed vigor. They scoured every nook and cranny, delving into hidden coves and lifting tarps of seaweed in search for the thread that would lead them to Edwin. Lucy was on a quest not only to find her father, but to understand the fabric of the stories that bound him. The symbols carved into the driftwood, the compass found in the secret alcove, all pointed towards something more profound, a connection between reality and the ethereal tales Edwin cherished. As sunset tinged the skies with hues of gold and crimson, Lucy and Rigby found themselves back at the shipwreck, a place now transformed into a locus of possibilities. Beneath the shadows of masts that once soared, she noticed something unusual in the sands, the outline of an object, partially buried and glinting in the fading light. Lucy dug carefully, her heart thrumming. She uncovered a weather-worn leather journal, the initials ED embossed on its cover. Her father's handwriting scrolled across the pages, filled with his musings, sketches of symbols, and mused connections between the legends of the beach and the broader currents of history he adored. An entry caught her eye, speaking directly to her heart, his belief in a place where time's fabric thinned, where stories lived alongside their tellers. It spoke of a sand-swept threshold between the present and the past, bridged by belief and love. Lucy closed the journal, a mix of determination and tenderness etching her face. Wherever her father was, this was the thread to follow. She felt it deep within, a bridge of love and memory traversing realms. She hugged Rigby, her constant companion, through the journey. Story Chapter 8, A Path Through Time. The following day dawned bright and cloudless, the kind of rarity Aberdeen cherished. Armed with the journal and a growing understanding of her father's path, Lucy rallied the search party. She spoke of the possibilities, not as fanciful tales, but as pathways through a narrative lived by Edwin himself. Mrs. Patterson and Mr. Thompson, among others, listened intently, tethered to both skepticism and hope. The sands whisper, and sometimes, if you listen closely, they guide you, Lucy said, echoing her father's words. The townsfolk moved with purpose, skills and senses keen from living alongside a storyteller who made them believe in the impossible. They explored the beach as a tapestry, every shell and stone a potential note in a symphony of tales. Rigby led them to the cove amid echoes and whispers, dreams and reality woven together so intricately they were inseparable. It was there they heard a sound, a familiar voice, caught on the wind, carrying snippets of a story shared 1,000 times. Lucy's heart soared as she ventured back into the alcove. The air shimmered where reality thinned, and there, as if stepping from a shadowed past into the present, was Edwin, weathered and aged by a different storm, but with eyes glinting with the joy of tales told and retold. "Dad," Lucy's voice broke. Edwin smiled, drawing Lucy into an embrace that bridged time and space. "I knew you'd find me, light of my heart," he said, his joy palpable. The reunion resonated through the gathered townsfolk, their cheers echoing across the shore, a community reunited, a narrative completed. Chapter 9. The Return of the Storyteller. What followed was a celebration, a mingling of past and present, and a reiteration of tales both familiar and new. Edwin, though mystified by his disappearance, spoke of a time not within months or years, but stories woven into the fabric of what made Aberdeen's sands magical. The journal became a shared treasure, a roadmap of exploration that transformed Aberdeen Beach from an ordinary stretch of sand into a realm bejeweled with wonders. As twilight descended, Lucy, Edwin, and Rigby stood at the water's edge. The tide whispered, the voice of the sea, and the moon cast its argent light on the sands that never forgot. "Some stories never end, Dad. They just change hands," Lucy said, her voice warm. "Story," Edwin chuckled, nodding. "And some people are the storytellers, their lives a testament to the old, told anew." The night embraced Aberdeen gently, cradling a town bound together by the storyteller and his tales, which had once seemed lost but were now found anew. The sands would keep their mysteries, the waves their secrets, and in time, more stories would be spun and shared, each one connecting the hearts of those who dared to listen and to believe. The end.